Me and a few friends thought we would go on vacation for a little art retreat in Japan. My friends Tim and Josh had never been to Japan, so we were going to do a couple touristy things, but for the most part, we kind of wanted to stay off the beaten path. Rent a car, go out into the countryside, go to the Ghibli Park, and just all around have a nice relaxing time and enjoy the scenery. Hopefully get some good references to make some art, and maybe do some live sketching along the way. Art nerd shit, you know. And maybe even sneak a visit in to the Spilding studio.
You're visiting Japan right now. Welcome.
Yeah!
What are we doing today, Dustin?
Our flight was on January 5th, and everything went quite smoothly initially. Now, if you don't know, I live in LA.
Wow. Los Angeles.
We arrive in Japan on January 5th, and on January 7th,
the two biggest blazes in the city remain
mile after mile of scorched earth.
A new fire has broken out in the devastation of Los Angeles.
At 11 p.m. Japan time, I got woken up by multiple calls and text messages panicking that we were in an evacuation zone, that a fire was rapidly approaching our neighborhood. Although obviously I was not in immediate danger as I was thousands of miles away, my cats, however, were still in my apartment. I had a friend who was luckily brave enough to go and rescue my cats.
Entire neighborhoods completely destroyed, everything gone.
Luckily, my friend who had rescued our cats also was able to pull our hard drives and grab some important paperwork. So at this point, we had decided that nothing was worth the risk of returning back to our apartment at this time. So we ultimately decided that we should try to enjoy the rest of our trip the best we could. Better to be paying for a hotel in Japan than paying for a hotel in LA, with the unbreathable air and hellfire skies and all. Ultimately, the fires never reached our neighborhood, although it came extremely close and there was quite a bit of damage in our area regardless due to the winds. It was a good 4 or 5 days of us looking for updates and making sure that everything was okay. So despite the added stress, our trip actually was quite lovely. The first few days we stayed at Neko Neko Inn, which is owned by Sharla and Ushka. If you don't know, Sharla runs a pretty prominent YouTube channel about Japan. We had stayed at this location on a previous trip, and I knew I had to go back, as it's located in the suburbs of Tokyo, and not so much your tourist hotel lodging experience. I especially loved starting my trip off here, as it's really relaxing after a really long 12-hour flight from the United States. If you have to be anywhere when you find out that your apartment might burn down, this is definitely the place to be instead of a cramped Japanese hotel room. We spent the first few days of our trip in Tokyo, mostly doing some touristy things with Tim and Josh. We visited a multitude of Pokemon centers, only to discover that all the Pokemon cards were sold out, which honestly was probably a good thing, because I was at the point where I was about to be stress buying just to distract myself. But these 4 Pokemon centers won't be the last ones I visit on this trip, and no trip is complete until you stop at Weed Town, USA.
Did you think you spent as much as you...
Oh, we spent way too much on this.
You got a crowd behind you now. They all want to see it drop.
And then also went to the top of the Skytree Tower. I had been in the Tokyo Tower previously and thought that was impressive, but this is something very different. You are much higher.
It includes double ears. If you fall, there's a chance you'll still win.
At this point in the trip, I was doing a bit of mental gymnastics to justify whether I should be buying things or not. Overall, I think this kept me from spending too much money, at least until I find those Pokemon cards.
Sure, Dan.
Even after we had flown back, the fires were still raging. The Eden fire, which was the one that was closest to us, just recently got to 100% containment. And although we are no longer in the evacuation zone, the air quality in LA is absolutely awful still, especially in some of the burn areas. It's just asbestos and melted plastic in the air. Needless to say, this video is going to be not as I planned it. But this trip, after all, is for art nerd shit, right? So, we found ourselves on the Shinkansen all the way to Nagoya, the Ohio of Japan. So naturally, we arrive in Nagoya and we head straight to the Pokemon Center, which oddly has just remodeled. It is actually one of my favorite Pokemon Centers now, where before it was quite underwhelming. However, the real reason we're in Nagoya is we're going to the Ghibli Park in the morning. We wake up bright and early, as it's about a 40-minute subway ride from the center of Nagoya to the park. And right as we walk out of our hotel room, it starts to snow. And although I was worried that the cold was going to kind of ruin our experience at the park that day, the freshly fallen snow was absolutely beautiful and totally worth it. I hear it's actually kind of rare for it to snow in this area of Japan, so to get to see the park this way was super cool. Okay, Tim, how are you feeling?
Incredible.
The way that Ghibli Park works is that there's multiple locations within this public park that you can gain entry to, depending on what type of ticket you have for the day. But the first stop we decided to make was at the Hill of Youth, as it's right near the entrance. You can see a life-size creation of the Cat Bureau. You can look in all the windows and take photos. However, you can't actually photograph inside the actual Hill of Youth building, which is the World's Emporium from Whisper of the Heart. This includes a full recreation of the antique shop and the workshop down below. And honestly, these were stunning to see. I wish I could have taken photos, but you were not allowed to in the building, including a working grandfather clock, just like the one from the movie. After that, we had about 2 hours before we had our entry time for the Grand Warehouse. The Grand Warehouse is like the central area of the Ghibli Park, and your tickets normally have an assigned time when you can enter there. But you're able to go to any of the other areas freely. But once you enter an area and then leave, you're not allowed back in. So we decided to go to the Witch's Valley with the 2 hours we had remaining, as this was the newest addition to the park. I didn't realize how big the Witch's Valley was, as most of the other locations are rather small and can be done within like 20 to 30 minutes. 2 hours was definitely not enough time to see the whole thing. My original goal was to do some live sketching here, but once I realized how large this section was, we kind of started to speedrun through it just to see everything. And I must say, this is probably my favorite part of the park, so I think next time I go back, I will definitely leave the majority of the day to this section. Kiki's family home, the bakery, Sophie's hat shop, Howl's Castle, and Earwig's house are all located in this section, on top of an additional gift shop, and a few other little restaurants and stuff. And unfortunately, you can't photograph inside a lot of these, but the details are on point. Every single room in Howl's Castle is there, including Hal's gross bathroom and his stunning bedroom. I know you can find some promotional photos online of the interior of these locations, but honestly, I would say don't spoil it because those photos do not do it justice. It's something about the lighting and atmosphere that is just absolutely perfect when you're there in person. Kiki's residence even has a full recreation of her mother's greenhouse, including additional rooms that you didn't really get a good look at in the animation. You can see photos on the wall, you can see the clothes in the closet, every single detail as if somebody actually lived there. And now I know a lot of people weren't a big fan of Earwig and the Witch, but I have to say, the potion room or laboratory, whatever you want to call it, is absolutely stunning to see. You're allowed to go through all the drawers and potions and bottles when you're in there, and it is super cool. It's located in kind of an unassuming house, so definitely don't skip over this location. It's a lot cooler than it seems from the outside. After this, we headed over to the Grand Warehouse. The first thing you'll receive once you walk in is a ticket for a small film. Now, Studio Ghibli has a number of small short films that you can only see either at the Ghibli Park or the Ghibli Museum. There's only ever one playing per visit, and it rotates monthly. And depending on the popularity of what short film is playing might determine on how quickly tickets sell out for that month. May and the Baby Cat Bus is by far their most popular short film, and it was the one that was playing during this visit. Getting tickets this time was a bloodbath. They were sold out within like 10 minutes. It feels like Fanime signups or something. Blink and you miss it. The other major attraction in the Grand Warehouse is the photo op location. Now this will have the longest line out of anything in the park. It's always over an hour-long wait to get inside. And because we were speedrunning this time and trying to show Tim and Josh the entire park, we decided to skip this as Sang and I had been there before. Other things you can see in the Grand Warehouse: Yabapa's office, Arietti's room, the big robot, an actual warehouse, and a food exhibition, on top of a couple play areas for kids, and of course, the main gift shop. After we were done making our purchases at the Ghibli Warehouse, we headed to the house from My Neighbor Totoro. Now this is also right next to the Dondoko Forest, and both these locations are much deeper into the park, and are about a 15-minute walk. We visited the house first, and this is a full-scale real house. They make you take your shoes off and everything to walk the property, down to the clothes in the closet, and the food in the fridge. No detail is spared. I do have to say the entrance to this one gets a little chaotic, as it's kind of just a house, and everybody is entering and exiting through one door, with the office with all the books and everything scattered around being the coolest part. And unfortunately, this is another location where no photos are allowed inside. After this, you walk up the hill a little bit farther to Dondoko's forest, which there's not really much here other than this giant wooden structure of Totoro.
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Which I believe if you are a child, you can go up in and actually stand inside of it. But as I am not that, there's not really much to do in this location. And after this, the park was getting really close to closing time. And unfortunately, we did not have enough time to make it to Mononoke's village before the last check-in time. And although I was a little sad that we weren't able to see everything in a single day, I had been to Mononoke's village before, and it is by far the most underwhelming part of the park, which is a little sad because I love Mononoke. I wasn't super devastated we didn't make it there, as there's just a couple statues and then a mochi station where you can make mochi for an extra fee. But other than that, there's really not much going on there. How much money did you spend?
None. I don't know what you're talking about.
A successful trip. We might be homeless when we get back, but I got a Baron statue. And now, Nagoya is great and all, but the Kyoto Pokemon Center is only an hour subway ride away, so I see no good reason to still be here. However, the tragedy of this entire situation is they were sold out of Pokemon cards. Okay, plan B. Just trust me. Plan B. My super secret favorite Pokemon card shop is in Kyoto. And yeah, I was EV hunting like the rest of the world. What about it? These tiny little... I tell you what, doubled in price in the few weeks I was in Japan. I was trying to avoid the Weeb Town prices, but a boy's gotta do what a boy's gotta do. And now this might surprise you, but Kyoto is not known for its Pokemon cards. So I guess while we're here, we should probably see the sights or whatever. Some tourist shit, you know what I mean? And although the architecture is beautiful, Kyoto honestly isn't one of my favorite locations to visit, as it feels a bit like a theme park on how many tourists are there. It gets shoulder to shoulder at some of the shrines, and my immersion just is a little broken. And the main reason we were there is because Tim and Josh had never been, so although I suggest going at least once, this is one of those places I typically would avoid. The Fushimi Inari Shrine actually is not that bad, as the week could die off the higher you get into the mountain. After you get past the halfway point, the crowds really thin out, and you actually get to appreciate the beauty of this location. So if I have to suggest any of the locations within Kyoto, this one's probably my favorite, other than my super secret Pokemon card shop that I will never tell you about. After this, we rented a car mostly just to go into the countryside and find what we could find. We intentionally decided not to have much of a plan for this section of our trip. We were only going to do this for about 2 to 3 days. The main goal of this was to get sick art references. You know, so this trip could be a write-off on my taxes. We mostly did a bunch of hiking on different trails and around different mountains. We were originally planning to go down to one of the southern islands. However, there was a random earthquake one day.
0.8 magnitude. This happened in southwestern Japan near the city of Miyazaki. It's on the island of Kyushu.
So we diverted to this hiking trail on this abandoned railway. You could say we're getting really good at dodging natural disasters. Also, we had to try the local cuisine. After this, we returned the car back to Kyoto and then got on the Shinkansen back to Tokyo. If you want to comprehend how dogshit the United States transit system is, this is in real time. Just wait for it. Just a couple more seconds. Just a few more seconds. We're going hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. We are in Tokyo. Real time, promise you. No lie. Trust me, bro. Japan has 1 billion vending machines on every corner.
Hopefully it's a nice color.
And let me tell you a fun fact. Every single one that does not have a Dr. Pepper inside is absolutely useless to me. The Sriracha vending machine is also acceptable. To end our trip off, Emily and Didas were kind enough to invite us to the Spilled Ink studio.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Spilled Ink with your host,
Emily!
And me, Didas.
So if you're interested in seeing us absolutely struggle with gouache paint, definitely go check out that video over on their channel, linked down below.
I was about to raw dog this gouache, dude.
We need some more color in this. What's going on?
Oh, okay. I thought I was still doing shadow stuff.
Why are we all doing orange? Hey!
I thought I was doing shadow
Why
stuff.
are you frog orange?
And also, IRS, look, I put this in a video. That means it's all work related. Yep, definitely needed all of these things for this video that I'm about to... Yep, taxes are cool. I love taxes. Taxes are... tax season, yay! And as promised, here is my Ghibli Park haul. Okay, random show and tell, but the bag game at Studio Ghibli is like incredible. Just like, I want to buy stuff just to keep the bags. So this one is from the hat shop. You can also actually get hats from like all the different properties. We got this Sophie hat, super cute, actually really affordable as well. I think other than just selling hats, it also sells like little candies and stuff. We picked up this little guy. And then I think this is biscuits or like cookies or something, but it has Hal's little dog there. Aww. So super cute. So some little Totoro cookies. Super cute. But that's not all. I actually got 2 larger purchases that I got at the Ghibli Park. I was kind of stress shopping, trying to distract myself from the fires and whatnot. First thing that I knew I wanted to get, because I had been eyeing it for my other trip, was this Baron statue. So let's open this guy up. And I remember the woman who was wrapping them all up just kept saying how handsome he was. The detailing is very good. And there is a secret. But there's one other big purchase that I made. Okay, I've unwrapped it. I believe this is life-size, so it is actually a life-size statue of Gigi, and the detailing on this is just beautiful. So it's very large. We got these 3 heads from Spirited Away. I think we're going to gift these to somebody, but I just thought they were too funny not to pick up. And then the other thing that we picked up was this book that actually, I believe, shows all the locations that you're not allowed to take photos in. Yep, I definitely did drawing on this trip. I definitely made some art on this art nerd trip. Yep, definitely. Definitely not recorded afterwards for continuity's sakes and the whole tax write-off thing. Yep. Right in that. Yep, does this count?